KREM 2's Boomtown coverage continues tonight with a look at the push to finish construction on the North Spokane corridor, otherwise known as the North-South Freeway.
So it's a project proposed way back in the 1940s, and while a portion of the freeway is complete, funding to finish the last several miles is now in question in the state legislature, pushing back the completion date potentially more than a decade from now. So here's what I learned about the latest effort to make sure the project keeps moving forward.
It is perhaps the longest running project in Spokane history that still isn't finished. So when Washington Governor Jay Inslee released his proposed biennial budget with no funding for the North-South Freeway over the next 4 years, reactions came swift and strong.
I thought someone was pulling my leg.
Jack Green is the owner of the wildly popular Green's Fresh Market in Hilliard, a neighborhood anxious for that freeway project to finally be finished. He says he's frustrated a pause was ever being considered.
It just makes you feel like this side of the state doesn't count. You know, that there's more people, more money, more projects on the other side. So, you know, where can we pull it from? And it always seems to be over here.
But State Representative Marcus Riccelli tells me he's confident the project funding will get put back in the budget before it's approved by the legislature later this spring.
I don't think there's any way that we're going to get out of session here with it being paused. I think it would cost significant dollars in the long run. It'd hurt our economy. At the end of the day, you know, I've worked with Senator Billig and Representative Ormsby to put out strong statements saying where our position is. I'm also working now in a bipartisan fashion with Republicans from the local area to sign a letter to Transportation Chair Jake Fye to let him know exactly where we're coming from.
One of those Republicans is State Senator Mike Padden of Spokane Valley.
You've seen the construction. If you go right down to Mission and Green, of course, you got on stilts the freeway right where it stops. And we're going to leave it like that for 6 years or 10 years? You'd think we'd be a third world country if we did that. I think the governor's budget is a proposal. I don't think that portion of it has been well received. And I think that that work will continue on.
By the time the budget is getting approved, what do you imagine it looking like? Do you think that the completion deadline gets moved back a few years?
Well, yeah, obviously it's frustrating. I worked in our last session to speed up implementation of the project. The reality is we've seen workforce challenges across the board, supply chain issues. So it needs to be the correct spend or right spend. So what I would see is probably a right sizing of what we're able to spend in the next 2 or 4 years.
Last year, Representative Riccelli had suggested the project could be completed as soon as 2026. Now it's looking like it might be closer to the original completion date of 2030 or even later.
This project is arguably the most important transportation link since Interstate 90 came through.
Just a few weeks ago, Spokane Mayor Nadine Woodward testified before the Senate Transportation Committee, saying any pause in construction would negatively impact the entire region's economy.
It is critical infrastructure to Spokane and would be a major, major blow to our economy.
Meanwhile, business owners like Jack say they have no choice but to wait a little longer.
I constantly have people asking, you know, why don't you open up a place on the South Hill or out north? And because it's inconvenient for me to get here. This would make it very convenient.
Now, state lawmakers are expected to approve their final budget by April or May of this year. Then it will go to the governor for his signature, and then the new budget officially takes effect on July 1st.
Certainly keep tabs on that one. My goodness.